If you don't want to work on an original, when you go in the library and you choose something like this, and I know I'm going to do some fairly serious work on this, I can choose to make a copy of it called a virtual copy. So I'm in the library mode, I'm in G, I've chosen this one, double-clicked on it, and I now right-click and I say create a virtual copy. What Lightroom does now is starts another text file, okay, and links it to the master photo. It doesn't make a copy of the photo itself. So you're not taking up another 50 megabytes on your hard drive. It's a virtual copy. But to all intents and purposes, you can edit it completely separately as a separate photo from now on without having touched the original at all. So I create a virtual copy, and okay, so we go into develop, and the first thing I really want to do on this one is just see whether I can do anything with the lens correction, okay, and you know, try the verticals and stuff. And kind of, it's all right, but I'm not that happy with it. It really does squash it down. It's kind of not gonna do what I want. So this is a Photoshop job, and mostly I'm going to do Lightroom, but I just want to show you one thing in Photoshop tonight, which, if you haven't seen it, is a really, really useful tool. Okay. So we're in develop. I go up to the photo menu. I go to edit in, okay, and I'm going to edit in Photoshop CC. All right. Actually, I'm not going to open as a smart object because it just gives you some extra features. But either of those works. So it fires up Photoshop and it loads it up. Okay. Now, normally I would probably do my pre-editing, you know, the highlights and shadows and all the rest of it, but I'm not too interested in that at the moment. I just want to show you how we fix the distortion. Okay. There's a filter in Photoshop now, which you may have not used, called adaptive wide angle. All the Photoshop experts say don't work on the original. Make a copy of the layer, which is Command and J. So I'll do that. Okay. So Command and J gives me another layer which is identical to the bottom one, and we'll work on that. So filter, adaptive wide angle.
So you do Command J before that?
Yeah, which gave me a new layer. Duplicated the layer. Now what this lets you do is tell Photoshop where the straight lines are and whether they're vertical or whether they're horizontal. So there's none of this kind of Lightroom making a good guess at it or whatever. You're actually saying that's a horizontal line, that's a vertical line. So what you do is you come into you're in adaptive wide angle now, and you tell it. So let's have a look. I'm going to tell it that this corner of the church, and you see where my pointer is. Over on the right-hand side, you've got a kind of like an even closer up view. Okay, so the corner of the church, the side of the church, I'm going to just the top of it there, click, and now I'm going to draw a line down the side of the church there, get it just right, boom, okay, and then I'm going to go up to the middle of it and right click and say that is a vertical line, boom, okay, so it now redraws that picture with that as a vertical line. But if you look, this is still kind of slightly skew. And this is kind of slightly skew. So I need to tell it that there's a couple more vertical lines. So let's say tell it that this one is a vertical line. So this side of the building is a vertical. Down to say there. And right click and vertical. Boom. Okay. So now it knows that both those lines are vertical. So it's kind of doing all the calculations for the rest of the building. And this side of the building's vertical as well. There, okay, so right click, vertical, boom. Okay. And that's a much better rendition of that building than the Lightroom rendition was. The Lightroom one was much more squashed and too high, whereas this is much nearer to what it actually is. So I'd say okay at that point, okay, and it would apply that wide angle shot, apply that adaptive wide angle. And now I can save that, file, save, okay? And if I close Photoshop, it'll save it as a TIFF file, and it'll put it back into Lightroom for me. And from then on, I can go in on the TIFF file, G, if we go back to G, you should now find that TIFF file. There it is. Yeah, so there's the 619edit.tiff, and now I can do all my normal edits. So I go to develop, basic, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks. So very quickly we've gone to a kind of much more, and now I'm going to kind of pull my crop down. We can lose quite a bit of her, I hope. Okay, and go with something that looks a lot better very, very quickly. I'm not going to crop Penny and the children out in the Danny there. This chap here, well, you could try the clone, the clone option, and maybe see whether we can get rid of his head and bring in some more foliage, maybe something like that. So we can try that, and if that's going to work, then okay, then let's see whether we can draw him in completely. So if we draw him in completely, and then we could pull the foliage from maybe up here, or whatever. Now, I'm doing it very quick and dirty, but you can make these kind of changes pretty quickly, and just overwrite stuff. I would spend a lot more time and get that, done a little better than that. But very quick to make those edits. This is a very famous shot in Ireland. This is on what's called the Clifton Sky Drive. It's Derryclare Lough and the 12 bends. Okay. But on the day that I went, it didn't look like that. Let me go back and find the original again. Date and time. 3273. 3273. So it's folders 2014 grid 3273. Should find it for me. All being well. Boom. There it is. So you see, I'm using the metadata there, and that's just searched through every shot I took this year, all 7,949 of them, and just gone straight to the shot. So here's kind of what we started with, okay, which is a pretty miserable shot. It's one that you kind of maybe wouldn't even give a 1 to by starting it, and there's this horrible telegraph pole and all the rest of it. But again, let's go and do our normal thing. Highlights, shadows, Alt for the white point, Alt for the black point. Okay, and immediately, without doing anything else, we've gone from that to that. Now I'm doing that before and after. I'm in develop mode and I'm pressing the backslash key. So the backslash key takes you from right back to the start of your edits, and you can just toggle between the two. But that's just those 4 sliders. Highlights to the left, shadows to the right, and then Alt for the white point and the black point.
Alt.
Yeah, Alt and drag to the right for white and to the left for black, until you've got the histogram across the whole of the sky. Pop the clarity a little bit, maybe, something like that, and then, because this landscape is crying out for it, go into crop and do a landscape crop. So my 19:7 classic crop. Now in this particular crop, the last one, we had the mountain up here, okay? But on this one, there's kind of very little foreground action, so I'm actually going to make the foreground much less of the shot, and I'm going to put the kind of main horizon line on that bottom thirds line. Okay, so about there. Okay, that's a better composition. Okay, so I'm not going to enter this in any competitions, but I want a nice landscape, and I don't want this horrible line in. So let's see whether we could do something about it. Go into the clone tool, select a pretty small brush, and just drag down. Now what I find is that this works better if I do it in small increments where there's large differences in what I'm going to drag down. So you see the top of the pole there was in the sky. The next bit is all in the mountain. So I'm going to start a little bit further down the pole and kind of go up and come down again, just so that I can butt up to the last clone. And I'm just going to take it down to that top piece of grass, and it will pull something out from over there on the left. Okay, and we'll let that do its thing. And then I'm just going to do that bit in the grass as a separate clone there and see what it gives me. Okay, and then we'll just do the same thing with these bright bits here, and another one there, and just see whether we've got what we want. So we turn the clones off. Now it's not perfect. You need to kind of play with the feathering and do a little bit more work on it, but you can go from that from that to that in a few seconds with the clone tool, and that's without going into Photoshop or anything. Okay. This central one is a bit heavy. It's not really working well, so I'm going to select it and I'm going to hit delete, backspace, and it blows it away. And let's see whether we can do a slightly better job on that. So feather, let's push the feather up to say 83, bring the opacity down just a tad to kind of about the same, and I'm just going to see whether I can make my brush even smaller and get a bit more precise. See whether we can get something working a little bit more. Yeah, I think we're going to have to have opacity at 100. Yeah. So you see the opacity slider, as I slide it back, it shows what was there, and if I go up to 100 it kind of just clears it completely. So that's probably going to be about right. And we can move that point around and get a good selection. So that's a lot better, very, very quickly. And up until 5, you didn't have that option. The clone tool could only be done in circles, whereas now you can draw, you know, lines and stuff like that with the clone tool, which is a fantastic. On this particular edit as well, I would use the adjustment brush, top right, and I would paint in on this mountain. See the darkish part of the mountain there? I kind of just paint in on the darker part of the mountain there, and maybe this mountain over here, just paint on there, and I just darken those off just a little bit, and I did that darkening with some more clarity. Okay, so that's right. Show the pin, don't want the mask overlay. So you see, if I push the clarity up on it, you see what it does to the mountain. Yeah, it's really bringing it out in terms of that rock as I just push it up. So I'm going to push it up a fair way because I want that mountain to kind of stand out a bit. Okay. And maybe I want to put that on that back mountain as well, so I can paint on there and do the same thing. Okay. So it's very powerful. You know, the control you've got over editing. So again, just push that and then just pull that back mountain back a bit. Especially in landscapes where you've got layers. Very often the layers of land that go further and further back get less and less distinct. And if you play with some of those layers and actually bring them forward a little bit and bring them out a bit more and darken them off, it can dramatically affect the overall look of the landscape. And then probably to finish off, maybe a quick radial filter just to bring the eye into the trees here. So just maybe brighten them off half a stop, a little bit of extra clarity. Yeah. So just a kind of general radial filter on the trees there, because that's really where we want the eye to go. Yeah. And then go down to the bottom and a very small corner vignette. Again, you know, 9 or 10, something like that. So again, from that to that, you know, in a couple of minutes.
How are you talking?
Backslash key. The backslash key. Okay. So I'm in develop, before and after. Okay. You can also bring the before and after up. There's a view down here. You see, very bottom left-hand corner of the screen, the two Y's there. If you click on that, and if you click on it several times, you get different views. So that's a lovely view to have as well, because it shows the before and after, and you can see them both. And you can work in that view. So you can kind of play, and you're working on the bottom one, and you can see what you started with. Questions? Yes.
I often place colour channels when you look at colour that might be underrepresented.
Yes.
And in this case, that yellow and green might come up pretty nicely just with the colour channel.
Okay, let's do that then. So let's go into the HSL Colour and Black and White tab. Okay. So hue, saturation and luminance, colour and black and white. Okay. But we'll go into hue, saturation and luminance. Okay. And if you want to bring a particular colour up, yeah, there's various ways of doing it. You can just choose the colour, okay, and you can say, right, make a change to that colour, the hue, or make a change to the saturation of the greens. An easier kind of visual way on the picture is, you see this little bullseye up here, just here. There's a little bullseye icon. Can't really see it very well on the screen. If you click on that, and now the cross, this cross here, okay, so this is the selection point, and you click and then you drag up and down, and it's going to change whatever's under the centre of that cross in terms of hue, saturation and luminance. Okay, so if you want to change that grass colour, yeah, then you can see as I go up, it's moving the yellow and greens because that's the colours in the grass, okay, or not, okay. Whereas if I click over upon the clouds and change it, yeah, it's changing the greens and the aqua because they're the colours that are being picked up. Okay, so if you want to work on hue, you use this one. If you want to work on saturation, you use this one. So let's saturate those greens up. So I'm clicking on these little this little icon here. Okay, click on it and then put your cursor over something on the page that has the colour that you want to change. Okay, click, hold, and then drag up or down. Okay, so if you drag all the way down, it'll just eliminate the luminance, and so now you've just got scrubland or whatever. Or you can have, keep going up, and you can really push the colours. Yeah, because there's only yellow and green under the centre of your square. If you put it in the clouds, you'll find that it'll change aqua and green or whatever. Okay, so it just depends where your pointer is. And again, double click on any of those colours just to bring it back to the middle again. Okay. Well, that's because you've only got green and yellow under the point that you've got your cross when you put it over there. Now, there's one thing I want to cover which isn't in the develop module because I can't remember who asked me about it. Printing. Okay, so let's just do the print thing because it's 8:45 now. Okay, if we go back into grid view, okay, and I'm going to go back to my collection. Okay, so let's just and turn my filter off. There we are. So there's my grid of all my pictures. Okay, from this particular collection. Okay. If I want to, the question was, I want to put them all on one canvas or one piece of paper. Okay. So what's the easiest way of doing that? Okay. I'm going to select them all. So the easiest way to select everything in a collection is Control and A, but you can also just click the first one, hold the Shift key down and click the last one. So now they're all selected. Okay. And now I'm going to go over to the print module, which is over on the right here. if we bring up the bottom tab, you know, the bottom down here, the little arrow, yeah, so we can see all our shots, and there they all are. Okay. You want a custom package. Okay. So if you do single image contact sheet, it just gives you the standard kind of stuff. Picture package, custom package. Okay. So you choose custom package, and here's one that I kind of created earlier. But let's just try and do a new one. And at the moment, I've got selected photos to be used. So you can use all the film strip photos, or selected photos, or just flagged photos. You know, it's up to you. Okay. But basically, what you do is you just highlight the ones that you want, and you drag them onto the page. Okay. And they all go onto the page, one on top of the other.
And the selected photos.
Okay. Yeah. So you see, I've got the photos at the bottom here. Okay. So select the ones that you want. So it might be all of them, Control and A. Okay? Or it might just be that you just want to choose just one of them. Or, you know, if I hit the Command key, I just want that one and that one and that one. Okay, so whichever photos you want, you make a selection of photos. And then you click and drag them onto the page. All right? But when they land on the page, they land in a pile, all on top of the other. And then you have to move them around. So you should be able to just click and drag, and move them around. If you right-click on one, you can bring it to the front. So you see April there; she's hidden by these other photos. Okay. And you can move these around wherever you want. Okay. Now, if you're going to do a canvas, if you wanted a big canvas, you'd need to set the size of the canvas. So you need to go down to the bottom and say, I'm going to print this, okay, print to printer, and you're going to need to set a page size. So you figure out how big your canvas is going to be, set the page size before you start moving the photos around, and then you can arrange the photos to fit. Okay. So that's kind of the easiest way of doing one of these montages. There are a number of other ways of doing it, but that's by far the easiest. Custom package is right at the top. Okay. So now highlight several photos, and then drag them in. So they all come in like that. And then click on one and drag it away. Click on the next one and drag it away. Yeah, and you can resize them as well. So just click on a corner to resize it. Now, be careful if you're resizing them, because look what happens. Yeah, hold the Shift key down while you're resizing. Okay, and if you hold the Shift key down while you're resizing, it resizes to the original aspect ratio. Okay, so that's the trick for the aspect ratio. So Shift, click, and resize. So that's the custom package, and then you can save it and print it, and whatever. Question? No, Henry's talking. Okay, that's fine. It's 10 to 9. So I'm going to kind of draw to a close. Any last questions? Have I lost you all completely? Anything in Develop particularly that you want me to cover? Yeah. So,
Borders,
yeah, borders is a funny one. Okay, this is a really weird way of doing it, but it's the best way that I've come across. There is an add-on to Lightroom called LR Mogrify 2. You see here? Okay, LR/Mogrify, MOGRIFY, LR/Mogrify 2. Okay, and you install it, and it then becomes part of your export options. Okay, and so you export a shot, and then you go into the configuration for LR Mogrify, and it will allow you to set, as well as the image, yeah, you then go in and you can set borders and you can set kind of watermarks and all kinds of stuff, and it will build, it's a plugin that you can download. Yeah, I'll make a note of it and I'll email it to Henry and Kathy, and you can circulate it, because it's a free plugin. So if I send you the plugin and the instructions, then everybody can do the install. Yeah, there's watermarks and borders. It's fabulous. Let me make a note of that. So I'll put send club members LR Mogrify. Oh, by the way, I am now a club member. So, so I'm going to be your first international member. So. Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah. So. Okay. So. Alrighty. I think we'll call that a day, shall we? Yeah. Thank you, everybody.